I'm going to use a 4mm crochet hook. Okay, we're going to start with a slip knot, and then you can chain any even number that you want, and then add 4 for your project. So I want my project to be 36 stitches wide, so I will add 4 and chain a total of 40 to start, but you can chain any even number you want and then add 4. So I'm going to chain 40. I have chain of 40. In the 4th chain from your hook, so don't count the one that's on your hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right in here is where your first stitch is going to be made, but we're going to turn it over. We're going to go in the back bump. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it over. And right there in that back bump, you're going to insert your hook. Yarn over. Pull through. You have 2 loops. Yarn over, insert into the same chain, yarn over, pull through. You now have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 4 loops. And then chain 1 to lock in the stitch. That is an Elizabeth stitch. And now skip the next chain. We'll go into the one after that. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. You have 2 loops. Yarn over and go into the same space. Yarn over, pull through. You have 4 loops. Yarn over and go through all 4 loops. And then chain 1 to lock it in, and you keep doing that. You just repeat the same thing. Skip 1. So you are putting an Elizabeth stitch in every other stitch, or in every other chain as you go down. And don't forget to chain 1 after you do each little cluster. I'm going to go slow one more time. So skip that stitch, go to the next one. And repeat that all the way to the end. When you get to the end where you just have the 2 stitches left, You have 2 back bumps left right there. You do your skip, and then you go into the last bump, and that's where your last Elizabeth stitch for that row will go. And then make sure you lock it in with your chain 1. And then I am going to move my tail up through here. Just so that it's at the top so I can weave it in easier. So there is your last little cluster stitch. So after you've done your chain 1, to lock that in, you will do 2 more chains. So chain 2, then turn your work, and now we will start row 2. You're going to do the exact same thing that you did in the other row. So your first stitch is going to go right there at the base of your chain where your 3 chains are. So right here is where your first stitch is going to go. So you do it the same way. Insert your hook, and I will be working my tail into the project. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through, yarn over. You now have 4. Go through all 4 and lock it in. When you are looking at where you need to insert your hook, you can either look at it this way while you're holding it and say, okay, well my hook gets inserted right here at the top of each cluster. So right here, and then right here. This is where you will insert your hook and put all of your Elizabeth stitches. So you can look at it that way. If you look at it on the top, then it's the same as the row before, where you skip 1. So you will be skipping this stitch and going into this stitch. And if you look at that stitch on the top and then turn it over, then it is right where we put our marker. So everything is the same as before. You skip 1, put your little cluster, chain 1 to lock in your cluster. Okay, so do the little cluster, chain 1, skip, do your little cluster, also called the mini bean stitch. And keep doing that all the way down to the end of the row and do everything exactly the same. Continue your pattern. You get to the end and your last little Elizabeth stitch. When you get to the end of that second row, we are going to put our stitch in the space that was created by those 3 chains that we skipped when we first started our row. Remember, we did chain 40, and then we did the 4th chain from the hook, so it left us with 3 chain spaces. So that is where the Elizabeth stitch is going to go. And then lock it in. And then do another chain 2. Turn your work. Put your first stitch in right at the base of your chain. Then do your skip 1, insert your hook into your next, and do your next Elizabeth stitch, and then just follow the repeat pattern all the way till you get to the end. When you get to the end of this row, just like the previous row, normally you would do your skip 1 and then go into this space, but because it's the end of the row, we are going to put our stitch in our space created by the chain 3, the chain 2 plus the chain 1 that you did to lock that stitch in. So do not go into this space, instead go into this space and do your normal stitch. Do your chain 1 to lock it in, and then chain 2 and turn your work to start your next row. And do the same thing where your first stitch goes into the base. Do your repeat pattern all the way across, and when you get to the end, again, you're going to go into your chain 3 space created at the end instead of here. You'll go all the way at the end. And repeat that until you get the size that you want. If you are doing the chain 40 like I did, once you get 5 rows completed, 5 of the Elizabeth stitch, not counting the foundation, so once you've done 5 rows with the stitch, I think it ends up being the perfect size for a bookmark. So you can iron with some starch. Just tie your project off and weave your tail in, and then iron it with some starch, and I think it makes a really pretty bookmark. I'm gonna stop there. I've got a square and cut my yarn. Save all of your cotton leftover pieces because I'm gonna do a project coming up with all of the leftover pieces of cotton. Tie a little knot in the corner and then weave in my end. This is such a pretty stitch.